Ladies and gents, to another episode of the Wrestling Connection podcast. Thank you ever so much for joining us on this fine week. My name is Chris, I'm joined by Glenn, and we are here to do something a little bit different this week. We are doing something that we've never done before here on the show, but we are buzzing to get to. Really, it's a trial period to something we're going to do a little bit later on. I have some plans in mind that I've not ran past Glenn yet, but maybe I'll do it during this episode. But this will be our first ever WWE Network, WWE Wrestling Show watch along, ladies and gents. So we invite you to go to your network, and as you'll see from the title and the description of this episode, to search for WWF SmackDown December 13th, 2001, because on day of release, it is the anniversary of this particular episode of SmackDown. It is the 19-year anniversary. Yes, not 20-year anniversary. We're saving the 20-year anniversaries for next year because we love 2001. So hello again, everybody. My name is Chris, as I said. Glenn, how are you doing on this December day? We're one step closer to the Christmas special.
I am still so stoked for the Christmas special. To answer your question, I am doing really well. I've had a bit of a tumultuous week, but
yes, I'm looking forward to hearing about it.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you all about it. And you mentioned Christmas, and I can't ignore that. So, in terms of your Christmas present, I have had about 1,000 different ideas, many of which have had to become impossible because of how much it takes to ship stuff from America. Yep. So, I've got you a card sorted. I've got you.
Oh, I didn't think about a card.
Yeah, I've sorted you a card. You need to get me a card. Come on, Chris.
Sorry.
And I will. And I'm doing the same thing as you in that I'm kind of putting presents together that all together don't go over our budget, right? So yeah, I'm being careful of that. But I've seen some great stuff that I really wanted to get you because I told you about the WrestleMania 17 ticket idea.
Yes,
but I've had other things that I've seen online, and they're just too expensive to ship, even though the item itself is really cheap. So Can I tell you one thing I was going to get you, which I can tell you won't be happening now, just because I could order it, but it might not come in time for the episode. Okay. So the whole magic of you opening it on the podcast live would be lost potentially. I could risk it and maybe go for it, but I was going to get you a trading card which had a piece of an event worn t-shirt by Maven.
My boy, the leader of the boy stable.
Yeah, man. I was like, I cannot tell you how many different Maven merchandise things I've looked into, man. There's not a lot out there, to be honest, and all the really cool stuff like signed action figures are actually within our budget, but then the shipping cost is astronomical. It's such
Don't go mental with that sort of stuff, you know. But that's great. I would have loved it, but that reaction would have been priceless, though.
I know, right? But do you know what somebody's flogging on eBay?
Maven's trunks.
No, Maven's contract.
All right.
It's actual contract.
Nice. Oh, God. Well, that would have been nice. But listen, I'm more than happy with anything you send me, so I'm going to be grateful regardless. But that's a nice idea.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, shall we explain what we're going to do today then? And how this is going to work.
Yeah.
Glenn and I have a couple of ideas, especially going forward for 2021, because we want to do some watch-alongs of some really prominent moments in our wrestling fandom, right?
Yeah.
And we were going to just do them, this month or whatever, but then we thought 2001 is up from a lot of the events that we wanted to do, and it's going to be the 20-year anniversary next year. And we're in December, so it's, pretty much, we can just wait,
Yeah.
So next year we'll be doing lots of sort of 20-year anniversary watch-alongs. So we'll have to do like a trial run, practice run to see how this is going to go, where you guys can watch along with us at home. But the point of this is that you don't have to watch along with us. We won't be sitting here commentating the show we're going to watch. We're just going to have it on in the background, making up sort of wee, annotations of what's happening. But we're going to do, business as usual. We're going to do our usual episode, our segments and that sort of thing. Just so happens that we'll have an episode of SmackDown on in the background, right? So that means that we're live, pal.
Yeah.
So if one of us has a toilet emergency, we're going to have to leave, but the other person will just stay and continue the chat. So bear with us. We've never done this before. It should be exciting though, right?
Yeah, I think it's one of those experimental things that will be enjoyable, and it's never going to be something that we do like every single week. But I think we've picked a good episode. Have we told our listeners which episodes actually load up?
SmackDown December 13th, 2001. 19 years ago on release date today here in 2020. And this is the episode of SmackDown with the legendary Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Booker T supermarket brawl, and we'll get into that as it happens. But that's the one you want to look for in your network right now if you're setting up with us.
Excellent, excellent. And it just so happens, I think I watched this, maybe earlier on in lockdown, because I've been kind of going through '01 and into '02. So it'll be fun to revisit it with a refreshed perspective. But I remember watching this when it was broadcast on Sky One, because you know how SmackDown was always Saturday morning on Sky One.
Saturday morning, absolutely.
Yeah, and so I remember the first time this went out. So this will be the third time I've seen this. The first time was when I was 10. The second time was about 6 months ago, and they were going in for our third time.
Excellent. So if you have managed to, by the way, I should make this clear as well. When Conrad Thompson does this format with Bruce Pritchard and JR and Tony Schiavone and all that, he does all his research and gets stuff from Meltzer and Wade Keller and Alvarez and all these people. I have no idea what we're about to watch other than Austin and Booker T. So we'll just see what's on in the background, and then we'll just chat about what we see, you know.
Absolutely. I'm glad this is happening now, that my tablet is being a bit of a, oh no, it's good. Okay, I thought we were having technical issues there, Chris, but we're not.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get my player to go to like 0 seconds in. So
yeah, try get it to so it's 00000, and we'll all hit play at the same time.
Bear in mind the network might play an ad, so if you've not played the ad already, play the ad.
Okay, well I don't think mine's going to play an ad.
Okay,
because I kind of went in and then I kind of went back a bit. So see if yours are going to play an ad. Good shout.
Mine isn't. So cool.
Okay,
I'm ready to go whenever, man, and then we can just take it from there.
Okay, so if you're watching along with us at home, make sure your TV is on mute so we don't mess up the kind of like the sound aspects of this, because that could be a couple of seconds ahead or vice versa sort of thing. So we're both sort of commenting on the same sort of stuff at the same time. We're all going to hit play at the same time. We'll give you a quick countdown from 3, 2, 1 and hit play on play. Are you ready, my friend?
Mm-hmm.
Hit play in 3, 2, 1, play.
Yes, and now we have that iconic opening. My favorite of all the WWE or WWF signatures.
I used to like when they used to show like Eric Bischoff's face, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think I saw Conrad posting that as a GIF. That was such a Ruthless Aggression era thing to have the Bischoff face. And it's so genius because it's one of those little details that was so consistent with that character that I don't think you would get that now. I just don't. It reminded me of like back in '99 during the McMahon Helmsley era when they would have Triple H and Stephanie on either side of the Tron. Do you remember?
It's just cheap heat, you know? It's just like any ways that we can try and annoy everybody, we'll just do that. So I think that's a good one. We're seeing here a recap package from Raw. It looks as if Jericho and Ric Flair are about to have a cage match. I don't think it will be Flair that's in the ring with him, though.
No. Flair actually hadn't wrestled for the WWF since his return at this point, because he didn't actually have his first match till Royal Rumble 02. Prior to that, he hadn't wrestled for the WWF since the early 90s. But this was, do you know what? Like, I know the Jericho character often would make a lot of the fact that he was the first undisputed champion, but I don't think he gets enough credit for this actual run as champion, don't you?
Right.
I think he was.
No, I agree.
The NWO and the fact that people always say he's such a he lost a lot and he never won clean. I'm like, he's a bad guy. That's what they do. It would have been different if he was a good guy face champion, but I don't think Jericho has ever been a babyface world champion anywhere.
No, never. He was supposed to be in 2017 in the feud with Kevin Owens, but they changed it to Goldberg and Lesnar instead of Jericho and Lesnar. That would have been good. Well, it was going to be, the story goes, I mean, this is Jericho's story. It was going to be that Jericho was going to beat Kevin Owens at WrestleMania for the Universal Championship and then drop it at Extreme Rules the next month to Brock Lesnar. That was the plan, and then Goldberg got involved. So
that would have been cool, because we've never really had Lesnar and Jericho, have we? That
would have been great, yeah. And it just would have made like Sorry, I was going to say it would have made like the Kevin Owens story even more a big deal because the Universal title was involved, you know?
Yeah, and listen, I get it. Goldberg and Lesnar is still a huge draw, and they did an amazing job that year at WrestleMania.
Yeah, we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago.
And I loved that whole angle. I love what they did with Lesnar and Goldberg. But I do think it's a shame, because Jericho and Owens would have been an amazing world title match for WrestleMania for sure. Not necessarily the main event, but the fans were ready to really, really root for Jericho, which they were, of course. They're always going to respect him, but yeah.
We were talking about the Jericho not getting enough credit for this undisputed championship run. I also think it doesn't help that he lost the title after Rock and Hogan at WrestleMania 18. Because although people just, I mean, I'm sure that match isn't that bad. Here we have like the best SmackDown Open of all time, by the way.
Yeah, how good is
the beautiful people?
How good is like the updated version that people have done online?
Oh,
of, like,
so good.
I love
I
that.
find that stuff so creative. I wish I could do something like that.
I know. I just want them to do an old. You know how they used to do old school Raw? They should do old school SmackDown. Bring back the fist like after COVID, and have that done like the way that they redid the old Manhattan Center Raw intro. They should just totally do that.
That's cool.
And this is a big deal as well because Marilyn Manson was such a controversial figure at the time, and especially in America, where a lot of conservative kind of daytime talk shows would berate Marilyn Manson for his negative influence on the youth of America, and so to have him kind of be the kind of the introduction to SmackDown for, I mean, it was a good couple of years. I think it was up until 2003, I think, or 2002, that they used that theme.
Yeah, because 03 ended up being that yeah, that was that theme song.
I want that on loop, please. That's like ASMR for me.
It's hardcore champion Undertaker. Did you see that?
I know. Sometimes I forget that The Undertaker, who will factor into one of my segments this week, The Undertaker was indeed the hardcore champion. In the same way that I forget that Kurt Angle very, very briefly was hardcore champion on an episode of Raw, although he never even lifted the physical belt. That was how brief his title run was.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of those facts that I often forget. But I loved the aesthetic of Taker as hardcore champion because it really matched the big evil heel Taker persona that we had at the time. And I think I remember the call when Taker bet Van Damme at Vengeance 01. Undertaker, Jim Ross said something like, "The Undertaker is the hardcore champion." What a horrible thought!
Like, we're watching the recap. Oh, this is amazing. We're watching the recap of Raw and Rikishi with the stink face and the dance. Oh my god. Here comes Angle. Oh man, see, seeing Kurt Angle with hair and the medals and stuff like that. It is so nostalgic. Reminds me of my youth so much. And he's about to go against one of my favourites and one of the favourites of the show, ladies and gents. The big Quiche. Oh wait, no, here comes Regal. Maybe a tag match. This is the problem. How I've not done any research on this show whatsoever. Here comes Regal. And by the way, I just want to mention, I love the nameplates at the side of the screen as well. So original. And they brought that back for SmackDown Live, didn't they?
Yeah,
like 2006, and they had like interesting facts about like the wrestlers and stuff. But they don't do it anymore, which is a shame. But I like that kind of idea of like a sort of the wee sort of movie plays, the Titantron plays next to them. It just made it a bit different to Raw's sort of presentation, you know?
Yeah, I loved the early days of the 2016 brand split because remember, SmackDown had a different hard camera as well.
That's right. And it was kind of like a floating one, wasn't it? Like going over the ring.
I loved that because I just remember that being kind of. I remember really noticing that when they weirdly brought back the headbangers for a few weeks. Do you remember?
What the hell was that about? Oh my goodness.
The Spirit
Squad were feuding with Ziggler because Ziggler was feuding with Miz, and they wanted to bring up the fact that Ziggler was a former Spirit Squad member as if that was supposed to be a bad thing.
Was it Kenny Dykstra that was part of that returning Spirit Squad?
No, I think it was Mitch and Johnny, maybe?
Yeah. Because I loved Kenny Dykstra. Remember when he became a solo star in like 07?
That's right, and he like beat like Ric Flair or something.
I was convinced he was going to be like a big deal. Do you know what I mean? Like, or he was going to do much better than he did. You know?
Yeah, they used to make a very big point. The fact he was like in his early 20s, they'd be like, "This guy is only 21 and he's beating Ric Flair."
Jesus.
Here we go, babyface Edge.
Yeah.
You think you know me. Listen, Metalingus is the best theme song in wrestling history. Very, very underrated one. Is Never Gonna Stop by Rob Zombie.
I love that. It's such a good song for getting yourself pumped up in the mornings. I used to sometimes, I think I actually listened to that before the job interview for the job I have. Never Gonna Stop Me.
Yeah, a very underrated feud, I think, is William Regal and Edge. They did some really good stuff together, and Regal was such a smarmy heel man. And Edge is such a good babyface at this time.
I remember having my Edge action figure was a weird one. So there was a run of WWE action figures which were like photorealistic ones. So the idea was that rather than have all the wrestling figures have the same generic body, unless it was like a character like Rikishi, obviously. But you know that way, like they would all have the same generic kind of body. So like everyone would be ripped like Scott Steiner. It would be weird having a William Regal action figure where he had these amazing abs when that was never Regal's look. So they did this run of photorealistic ones, and the one that I got was Edge. So it was a really tall and lanky figure. And it came with a really cool Intercontinental belt. And I think that's sometimes when I was wee, that's why I would buy the figure if it came with a belt I didn't have, so I could have that belt in my figure fed.
That's cool. We just saw the patented Rikishi bump there.
Yeah,
the
the
kind of
flippy.
twisting, from the clothesline.
Oh man, I always liked Angle's punches as well. I mean, obviously we're watching on mute, so we don't get the sound that he's making with like the stomp that he does. But oh, look at that. Yeah, but Angle was just so consistently good at that point. Like you could put him in the ring with anything or anyone of any shape or size, and you would get something great. And he would always be so very, very intense. Which is a shame because you just didn't really get that consistency with his last run. You just kind of wish he had that better send off than he got. And here's Edge in the blue.
I think you don't give enough credit to Kurt Angle's false finish kind of kick out. I think he was one of the best of all time at doing that. And when it was looked as if it was very much over, and Angle at the very last minute, he did a lot of that in like 2002 with the tag team stuff with Benoit and stuff. Those matches would be legendary because of that. And there's the finish already. Gutted about that. I was getting really into that tag match there, but that's a quick
TV
finish on SmackDown TV show. But that's fine. But we can move on to maybe just doing a normal episode now, because I feel like I'm going to get really distracted by the watch along. Which is fine. Here we go. Wait a minute. Here we go. Sting face time.
Oh dear. I mean,
We've made it clear that this is such a silly move, but it's so over. It's ridiculous.
I mean, the crowd are loving it. You can see by the way they're moving. Boo, Regal. Boo! Boo this man. Oh, well.
I noticed that Regal, when he wore those kind of alliance trunks, where it was like half black, half pink, I believe they're just two different pairs of trunks that he's wearing.
Are they?
Yeah.
So one's like a proper wee thongy sort of thing.
It must be, because the kind of pinky kind of colour is what he would wear before when he was the commissioner.
Yeah.
When he got his Sting face. Oh my God, are we going to get a Regal sale of the Sting face?
Just like
please.
2000, please.
Just like Judgment Day 01. Please do it.
Make Vince McMahon laugh.
Oh, did you get the cat? Oh, he's not doing it.
Oh, turn around, Regal. Sell it. You didn't even sell it. That's terrible.
Right to the brass knucks.
I don't know. Here we go.
Who was that speaking? Was I speaking to you about the brass knucks recently, or was it Fraser? Oh, that's a cheer shot. We're talking about the selling. Oh no, the use of the brass knucks. I think it was Fraser I was talking about. The brass knucks is such a devastating move and such a devastating weapon. Why does no one use it anymore?
I mean, it's great because you can conceal them or smuggle them easily, and I used to love that about Regal. Like, what innovative way can he use the knucks? I used to always love as well how he could. He must have bit into a blood pack there, unless that's a really unfortunate accident.
Or the stink face busted him open.
But I used to love how when you played as William Regal in the video games, he would get the knucks out and you would never get DQ'd because it was just like programmed as a normal move. He did it right in front of the ref. I used to love doing that. I absolutely love it.
4 really, 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 really good performers in the ring right there. And then we have Vince coming out the limo. So tell me, how are you then? So let's chat some more then. So what's been going on this week? What's been happening in your life as Booker T comes out the limo here? Tell us more about as we watch Booker T.
We've had a bit of a mad week. I mean, in terms of school, it's crazy right now because I don't know if the situation will be different by the 13th of December when this episode goes out. But school is, it's difficult. That we have a large number of pupils self-isolating. We have a significant number of staff, I'm sure, as well, who have to self-isolate. But it's mainly pupils, and so class numbers are dwindling. One of my senior classes is down by like 10 pupils, I think, right now.
Wow.
And you get to the point where you ask yourself, since I can't deliver like normal teaching plus online teaching at the same time, and there's no way I can substitute their education for them being in the classroom, no matter how innovative I get, whether I'm live streaming a lesson or there's just, it's not ever going to compensate. You just you wonder how fair it is to let some of those kids still sit in an exam, if that exam even goes ahead.
Yep.
So there's all these things kind of going around your brain every day, especially with your older kids. And then I come home on, I think, Thursday, and Kate, my wife, starts coughing really badly. And it's like a proper dry, repetitive cough. And I'm thinking, oh God, here we go. So she went to get tested that night. Now, I didn't know that you could just, like, once you've spoken to your doctor and all the NHS stuff, you just go to the airport, like
Yeah.
Glasgow Airport, and you get tested. I don't know if you know anyone who's been tested, but like I couldn't believe the speed of it, because you hear all these stories in the press about people who get tested and they're waiting weeks and weeks. And I was thinking, because the doctor said to her, like, you both need to self-isolate for 2 weeks until the results come in. I'm like, what, is it really going to be that long for the results?
Yeah.
Really? And the thing, the implication was, well, it could be. And then what if they come back positive? Is it then another 2 weeks from there? So that was Thursday night. So at that point, I realized, right, I'm going to have a late night tonight because I'll be working, because now I have to take all the lessons that I planned and change them so that they can be delivered like by a substitute teacher who might not be an English teacher.
Right. Yeah.
And so what you do is you change the lessons so that kids can access them on Google Classroom on their phones or on one of the school Chromebooks, and they can just crack on with it. And so the teacher who's covering is really just there to supervise. So, but like the time it takes to convert everything, it takes ages. So I was up till quite late, changing like an entire day's worth of lessons, thinking, God, I might have to do this for a while if she comes back positive. And meanwhile, you're worrying as well, because I was worrying that, what if Kate comes down with it? She's asthmatic,
Yeah.
and then, this scary situation. So I got up, I had a wee bit longer in bed, which was nice the next morning, although I didn't sleep particularly well. And I was just I was ready just to go up and start working from home. Kate was still in bed when that next morning she got a text about 8:30 to say, you're negative. And so thank God, absolutely relieved.
Yeah.
Then I realized, like, right, I'm need to go into school then. So I phoned the school and I'm texting my boss. I'm like, okay, can you just get my first period still covered, because I might come in like halfway through. It just depends how quickly I can get a taxi, or however I was going to get in. So then that ensuing morning was like ridiculous, because I was like frantically trying to get ready to get into school as soon as I can, because I'd feel guilty by just taking my time or milking it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wanted to get there because the staff are stretched as it is. So if I don't need to be off, then I should be in school. So I'm like, I book a taxi to get to my school, and in the place where I work, there's the high school, but there's also a college which is part of the same town. So they have the same town name in their name. So I get in the taxi after wolfing down a portion of salmon pasta for my breakfast, because this is
Lovely.
quick. Yeah, so I'm smelling fishy at this point. I get in the taxi, I say, such and such high school, please. And we go there, and I'm not paying attention to the roads, because I'm like looking at my phone. I'm texting my boss saying, okay, I think I'm 10 minutes away according to Google Maps. It won't be long. If you can just tell my class to get, their stuff out, and I'll be there soon. And then we pull up, and the guy goes, just the main entrance, mate. And I was like, yeah, thanks. You can't really get into the back entrance. And then I look up at the bloody college, and I'm like,
dear.
Yeah, mate, that's the college. I need to go to the high school. And then it turns out that my taxi driver was a total racist. And why are taxi drivers often, not always, but regularly so very racist? Have you ever had this? Like, I don't know if it's like regularly. It's not the fact so much that they're racist, which is bad enough, but also then the fact that they want to tell you about it. So
I think it's just because they feel like everyone's against them. You know what I mean? Because they see the worst of people. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I don't know. I don't know. I only know one taxi driver, and he's been very nice to me my whole life.
Speaking of numpties, by the way, Test has been an absolute predator right now.
Yeah, but there's the man right there. There's Big Jeff. This is the point where Jeff Hardy was my hero.
Yes. So yeah, same. I totally idolized him. So we pull out the college, and he proceeds to tell me how, school is failing a generation and we're all doing the wrong thing.
Right.
And he's getting on at me because in my English class, I don't teach them how to screw in a plug and change a fuse.
Because that's your fault, Glenn. That's
your
your fault.
curriculum, And I'm like, well, actually, they do.
Oh
actually
my god! Oh my god! Look what we have here.
Friend of the show,
Tori Wilson, and another one of my boys. It's Tadgers.
Tadgers. So I had, they kept that WCW cruiserweight belt for a long time before.
They did, yeah.
And you know what's funny is that they were showing the graphic of the new cruiserweight belt before they replaced it with the physical one. I noticed
Maybe.
this when I was doing the watch along. So like Tajiri and Billy Kidman and whoever were carrying, and Hurricane were carrying that belt. When the title was being defended, they would show a graphic of the cruiserweight, the new cruiserweight belt. And you know how, and look at that, they've actually edited that one to have a WWF logo at the side plates instead of the WCW one on that graphic.
Right.
But then the newer one that they had until Hornswoggle held it, and that was showing up in graphics before they had the physical belt, which is weird. So they must have had it ready in advance.
I don't know. Maybe it just was like it took a long time to get it out of production because it was aired back in 2001. I don't know.
Yeah, possibly. So where was I? Racist cabbie. Aye, so
Yes.
he's getting on at me for how I'm feeling a generation of kids because none of them know how to change a fuse, and he's also getting on at me because apparently political correctness has gone mad, and like. And that we should be teaching kids all like racist slurs and stuff because we're too PC and we're not preparing them for the big bad world. Like the man was a categorical moron. So I get out the taxi eventually at the high school, and I'm walking in, and I get up the stairs, and I'm thinking like, oh, it's 9:15 now, but at least the cover teacher will be in and the kids will be working. And I stumble into my classroom, and I've got these 2 lamps in the classroom to give it like a cozy vibe. So like often in certain lessons, I will turn out the lights, put the lamps on, and it's really nice and kind of cozy.
Yeah.
So I storm into my classroom, and that's the setup. And like, there's all like 12 of my higher class who are left right now, sitting there, all with their masks on, with the windows open, all doing the work, deadly silent, no teacher. And it just turned out there'd been like an administrative error, like the cover teacher had been given the wrong room, so like they were walking about the school trying to find the class, and so it was fine. And I just walked in, and one girl at the back just went, "Hi, sir, turned on your lamps for you." And I'm like, thank you so much. And so like, and that was like the chaos of my morning on Friday. But we also wore Christmas jumpers that day. We also had festive fun and played music. We're celebrating Christmas early, baby, because you cannot criticize anyone for having the lights out too early. And by the way, folks, at the time of recording, this is November, so you cannot possibly criticize somebody because we have all had a hopeless year and we are allowed to celebrate early. Damn it!
Breaking the fourth wall there, Glenn, but that's okay. That's great though that your class were able to just do it all themselves and just sort of have the common sense to just go and get everything set up. That's great.
They're
You've
very
them well.
conscientious. No, thank you. The credit's all to them. They're all
tarantula. The tarantula.
Yeah, so Tajiri is locking in the tarantula for anyone who's not watching this, and it looks like he's going for a kick or the mist, maybe a kick.
No, kick.
Yeah, and Crash Holly is not dyeing his hair anymore. Have you noticed this?
And that's what's different with him. I know he look different.
Gosh,
when my Attitude Era watch through that I'm doing right now, I'm in '99, just past SummerSlam, and he has just debuted Crash Holly.
Oh, really?
As the Holly Cousins with Hardcore.
Nice. So he showed up with. So at what point did Bob Holly become Hardcore Holly? Because he was like having hardcore matches in '99.
Yes.
That's where they got the name.
He officially became Hardcore Holly right before WrestleMania 15 because he was always just called Bob Holly and stuff, and then he could come out to the ring and just call himself the Big Shot. Taking the mick out of the Big Show,
right.
And like, oh, it's a hurricane. I was thinking, is this going to be Kane? But here goes the hurricane.
This was before he had the fun music. This was when he still had that weird hip hop music.
Ah, right. Oh my God, he's in the ring. He's on the top. And oh my God, he can fly. Who knew that?
He really can. I love this early version of the hurricane with the face paint instead of the mask, as much as I like the mask and when
I agree.
Hair. But I just love the cape. But for the first few weeks that he had the cape, it would never stay on. But I used to love. I remember I borrowed a Hurricane action figure of Robert when I was wee, and I used to love like doing what he did, where you put the cape around the ring post and then make him put it on before he did the splash. I used to always do that.
I love the Hurricane at Royal Rumble 2002, where he comes in and tries to choke slam Triple H in Austin.
Yeah.
But he's still got the cape on, and they throw him over the top rope, and it looks as if he's flying.
Why does Ric Flair look like everyone's granddad?
He so does. He's got the collar tucked into the jumper.
It looks like he's just off to the golf course. You know what I mean?
If I could be serious for a minute, it's Lance Storm.
Good old Lance. You know, he always had this thing about being deadpan and boring, but see, if you go back and watch his stuff in ECW, he's really charismatic. He's really full of energy, Lance Storm.
And he did some stuff in WCW. I remember Vintage Collection did an episode all about his run in WCW back in like 2012 or something. And it was like he was like the leader of Team Canada or something. He was cutting these promos about. I mean, it was just the Bret Hart promos. It was just like Canada's better than America sort of thing. But he was really, really good at it, and he was having great matches. A really, really, really underrated worker, and could be a general manager on anybody's boys stable.
That's right, because he held the hardcore, the US, and the TV title, or was it the cruiserweight title in WCW all at the same time? He had 3 belts, and he stuck a Canadian flag sticker on
That's
the
right.
US belt.
And I think it became like he changed the US title to like the Canadian World title or something. So I mean, that's you can say what you want about WCW in like early 2001, but it was still doing some creative stuff at least, you know.
Yeah, and that's, if you think about WCW in that era, they were given exposure to guys like AJ Styles. They were doing fun things like the cruiserweight tag titles. Like it wasn't without merit. It wasn't like a terrible product. It just it was up against WWF, which was a proper juggernaut by that point. An absolute on fire. And it's only now that WCW's gone at this point in December 13th, 2001, is it starting to temper down. It's hard to imagine that extra onions and a cheesecake and a tin of beans and potato tots and the other things they're talking about right now. I've got the captions on, you see. Like a section like this would appear on WWF a couple of years ago.
Right.
Certainly, the supermarket stuff would definitely fit into early Attitude Era, I think.
Yeah. Well, what we're watching right now, if you're not watching at home, is that Vince McMahon and Booker T are in the Skybox, which I used to love. Not the Skybox we have in our living rooms. The old Skybox.
This is the 5-star gold patty that you get in the Wrestling Connection, folks.
Yeah, that's what you come to expect here on the show.
You don't get more people listening to this damn thing.
Sorry. We have like one of our neighbours have like a sort of staircase that goes up to their front door, and they had like a sort of banister that you can hold on to, like a railing, so you don't fall down the stairs sort of bit. So when we were younger, we used to go and play out in the street and stuff. I used to go and stand up there and like tell all my friends, I'd be like, guys, I'm in the Skybox. Because of these things. Here comes our boy Test. I want a Coke take.
Who
is going to feature nicely into my match of the week, which I'd kind of like to get into right now if you want.
Okay, so I'll do the jingle then, since we're live.
Okay.
And we can't. Yeah, we could put the jingles in, folks, but it's a pain, isn't it, Chris, when we're doing it like this?
Exactly.
So I'm gonna, whilst we get the flashback to The Rock beating up Test in 2001 on an episode.
Oh my goodness! His spine busted them on the ramp.
Ouchie. I'm going to do the jingles. So, since it's my bloody wife who does them, so I'm right. I've got a keyboard right here. I should really start playing it, but it'd be a pain in the bum to... Right, okay.
If you want.
Wrestling recommendations, recommendations. Match of the week. Oh yeah. You know what's funny is you know how it goes 1, 2, 3, 4 match of the week?
Yep.
When Kate and I were doing that months and months and months ago, I was trying to explain to her that I wanted match of the week, like you do at a sports event, but it never kind of came through in the translation, so it became 1, 2, 3, 4. But that's fine. It's okay.
It's fine. When I first heard it, I had this sort of vision of you guys sitting in your living room, just like clapping around the microphone. It's just really nice and heartwarming.
Yeah, it was fun. We were sitting in the old Glen Den at that point, our spare room in our flat, where there was no soundproofing, so our neighbours heard all of that.
That's okay. Listen,
as did they hear half of every Wrestling Connection episode that was ever recorded there.
Speaking of heartwarming, we now have Jeff Hardy and Lita, who anytime, it didn't matter who they were wrestling or what they were doing, anytime they were on the show, this is SmackDown on a Saturday morning on Sky One, it was prime viewing for me. I would rewind it if that was possible when we taped the SmackDowns and watch Jeff Hardy's matches again. And I can't stress how much I love Lita too. Not for any other reason other than the fact that she was just cool. She was like the Hardy's manager. And yes, I knew she was Matt Hardy's girlfriend, but I quite liked that too. It was kind of cool that Matt Hardy had a girlfriend and now it's Lita and she's also a wrestler. And Jeff Hardy's so cool that she can be friends with Jeff as well. I just thought that was the coolest things ever.
Yeah, there was something. I mean, I think they just had that perfect combination. If you think about the prime of Team Extreme, that perfect combination of presentations. So you've got Matt and Jeff, who are similar but different enough to be an interesting tag team. Then you've got their timing. They were there at the right part in pop culture. their appearance and their aesthetic, although that's part of the presentation, was really important too. Their fashion sense, the music, and the way they all wrestled, and the fact that it wasn't just a case of here's the two popular men and there's their valet. Lita was the most over member of that trio at some points,
Absolutely.
And she isn't a valet, she is and will go down. And we did the Mount Rushmore on this, and Lita was on both of ours, I think. But Lita deserves certainly that the fact that she is a Hall of Famer. She is a Hall of Famer, isn't she?
Yeah, 2014.
Yeah. And she and deservedly so. I mean, I can't say enough good things about Lita.
And she just looks cool too. Like who put that outfit together? It's just cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just saw Jeff Hardy running across the barricade there. He'd do that spot where he'd run across the barricade and jump off of the clothesline or something, but he'd get caught there by Test. The first time they'd done that on WWE TV, if you can hear knocking, by the way, my dad is maybe putting up some Christmas decorations, so he might be hammering in nails and stuff. Right. The first time I ever did that on WWE TV was at SummerSlam 99, and it was the Tag Team Turmoil. And it was Edge and Christian and the Hardys, who were now the New Brood. They were about to start their best of 7 series, which would, of course, conclude with a ladder match and No Mercy later that year. But the first time we'd done the barricade walk-along sort of thing is that he runs across at one side and Edge runs across the barricade for no reason on the other side of the ring, and they both jump off at the same time and he catches him in a spear. And I just think, obviously, we've seen all these incredible spots with there being like on the Indies and in Japan and all that stuff nowadays, but back in the late 90s, when I'm sure there was some really cool cruiserweight stuff going on, and I'm sure in Mexico there was a lot of cool stuff. But in terms of WWE, a spot like that, running across the barricade and catching someone with like a spear in midair, was unheard of. You know what I mean? So I just imagine myself going mental if I saw that one live. As we are now approaching, I'm assuming, the finish of this match. As oh no, Test kicks Errol Hebner into the ropes. No!
By the way,
call back to a couple weeks ago in our thankful segment where we were thankful for referee bumps.
We also saw the Lita Kanrana there.
Yes.
And I love the Lita Kanrana. And that was another thing. Like, they all had distinctive, fun, finishing moves. Matt had the Twist of Fate and the leg drop and later on the side effect, but that was more of a version 1 era Matt thing. Yeah. And, of course, Jeff was predominantly the Swanton Bomb and, occasionally the Twist of Fate.
Who's this coming now? Is this Matt? No, it's The Rock. Oh my God.
I was going to say, I thought you were being funny there. Like the most popular wrestler of all time.
It's Matt Hardy. Is that? Oh no, it's The Rock. So we're still in rock bottom. We're still in recommendations, aren't we?
Yeah, you haven't heard the match yet. Come on.
No, match of the week. Oh yeah.
Well, that was nice. You should do more of them.
Thanks. My match of the week is, I've mentioned it a couple of times so far, it is SummerSlam 1999, and it is our boy Test here in the Love Her or Leave Her street fight with Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon versus Test, SummerSlam 1999. If Shane McMahon wins, Test is no longer allowed to date Stephanie McMahon.
Oh,
if
God.
Test won, then Shane has to stay out of their business. Damn it. There's a cake on fire or something on fire, and Vince just put it out with a beer.
Because the way you want to put out any fire, folks, is with alcohol.
It looked like a burger that was on fire. So I've been watching SummerSlam 99 this week, and I must say, right, WWE TV in the late 90s was unbelievable. So much fun and energetic and full of, crowd participation and main event stars that were all over and these great storylines and stuff, right? But the pay-per-views, I always think, aren't as good as they would become, I don't think, anyway. I think there's a bit of a slower pace to the pay-per-views because the TV shows were really well-paced. I have no idea what's in this recap package. It looks as if there's a triple threat match with all 3 members of Team Extreme.
Yeah.
And then we have Matt Hardy playing cards with the APA. Oh my God. This is going to be more difficult than I thought because there's so many good referencing points here.
I know.
So I always thought like the pay-per-views in late 99, or just 99 in general, just, weren't as good as the TV were, right? However, SummerSlam 1999 is a great show, and it's like really well paced, and the matches are always really good, and they deliver. The opening match is Jeff Jarrett and D'Lo Brown, and the tag team Turmoil, and then there's the main event, which is Triple H, Mankind, and Stone Cold Steve Austin, and you have The Rock versus Billy Gunn, you have the Big Show and Undertaker versus Kane and X-Pac, so it's like this big sort of, everybody's over, everybody loves everybody, it's this great show. And there's a match that is a real dark horse in the middle of that match, and it's Test versus Shane McMahon, And the only reason this is my match of the week is because I hadn't really watched it properly. Always kind of rolled my eyes at it because it was like, oh god, it's just a Shane McMahon and Test. Like it never went to anywhere. Like I know what's going to happen. Stephanie McMahon's going to leave Test anyway, and I just never really paid much attention to it. But when you watch the match, the crowd are so into it. Test has never been so over. And I guess they had like really high hopes for Test as a babyface. He would go on to be an even better heel in like 02 and 03. But he's doing great work here as babyface Test. Shane McMahon doing the leap of faith thing onto the announce table. Earlier in the match, you had the Mean Street Posse. Big shout out to the Posse. It's going to be one of my thankful segments, by the way, at some point. I'm really thankful for the Mean Street Posse. And yeah, just a great match, really fun match, so entertaining. Crowd participation, commentators going mental. It felt as if there was something on the line because Test and Stephanie were in love. Just a great match, and I would recommend everybody checking it out this week.
What a beautiful suggestion. And
you're welcome.
I love Shane McMahon as a wrestler. I mean, and I don't just know. There's Austin as a
that was great. I didn't even see that coming. There's Austin pretending to be a fireman.
But yeah, here. Tune.
Great tune.
God, can you imagine being in that crowd, folks? Austin is dressed up as a fireman, probably his favourite of the village people, and chasing Booker T for the audience.
Look at the
crybaby face.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Oh my god, the security guard running for his life. That was a great shot, by the way. That when Austin first attacked Booker T, they kind of panned over, and it looked as if like it was almost like a fight in the crowd, you know?
Yeah.
But it was just Austin attacking Booker T. They're going to go to the supermarket now, pick up some milk.
Oh dear. So what were we talking about?
Shane Posse, Shane McMahon as a wrestler.
Shane McMahon as a wrestler, I have so much time for, and obviously it's been kind of a running thing now that he's maybe been on TV a bit too much over the last 5 years. But I would say, his match with AJ Styles recently was excellent at WrestleMania 33.
Yes.
And like, he was always so over back in the Attitude Era when he was a babyface, and even when he was a heel. But I'm thinking about obviously the street fight, which my wife reviewed a few months ago.
Yes, with Vince.
Yep, absolutely. What was it she said? There were lots of bins involved.
There was lots of bins involved.
Can't take that away from her. It's true.
It's true. Yeah.
Oh dear.
We have a recap package here. Jesus. Going on with what we just witnessed, and that's sometimes annoying when you're watching these shows on demand because I've just watched it. But obviously, I'm sure it would have been good back in the day when there was adverts in the way.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I just love. Imagine being in that skybox, going, "Oh my god, it's Austin! Austin is here!" And also, the speed at which they get to the front is unreal. I know this was a tape show, but Booker T is moving fast, and he's also doing such a good job of being so cowardly.
He's so good.
That crybaby look in his face as he was running, it was like, please.
I just think he has such a good sort of selling. Oh god, I can't even speak today.
We're live, pal. You got to do this in one take.
It's supposed to be one take, and I'm not even making any sense. I didn't sleep very much last night, brother. I don't know what that means either.
What does that mean? Because it's in lockdown right now, and I know for a fact you live with your family.
No, it's sold out for SmackDown. I've not seen that in a while, especially because of the pandemic.
Well, technically, they are sold out every week right now. I mean,
that's true. Yeah, with the Thunderdome, Booker T does such a good job in the supermarket when he's looking like he's about to cry because he's getting hit in the face with like pizzas and that sort of thing. That's what I was trying to say. He does such a good job as that cowardly heel as you were making it. And here comes, as we were chatting about earlier, could be the lead man in anybody's boy stable. It's Lance Storm.
Good old Lance. Do you know what? I know. I'm gonna next time I'm recommending a match, I'm gonna recommend a Lance Storm match.
Well, listen, you can recommend my match right now.
What? We can't do that segment twice, Chris.
Well, we were each going to do recommendation and each be thankful member.
Are we? Okay. Right. Okay.
I texted you this earlier. Homework, Mr. Glenn.
I know, right? Okay. Wrestling, thankful. No, what?
No, recommendation. We're still in the segment. Wrestling,
okay. Thankful. Continued. Here's my wrestling recommendation, folks. ECW One Night Stand 2005 opening match. Lance Storm versus Chris Jericho. Have I done this one?
No, it's a good one.
I think that match was an early kind of moment for me appreciating like good technical wrestling, and I'd never seen it. Excuse me. I'd never seen a sorry,
Yawned.
Kane is so boring, you know. I'd never seen an ECW show of any sort. Maybe the odd clip here and there. And so when I watched that show for the first time, even though this was WWE bringing back ECW, it was the first ECW I'd ever seen apart from what you saw presented during the invasion. So,
Right.
I just loved, even though it was a short match, I loved how technically sound it was, and what I loved even more was how into it the audience were. And I think that's, seeing the appreciation and the applause for these two men and the mutual respect the fans had was really, really, I suppose, opened up a new chapter of my fandom. Whereas I think before I was really just a kind of character guy, and I liked violent matches as a kid.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but that's where I started to appreciate the subtlety of a great technical match, and I always credit Lance Storm and Jericho for that because I was 14 at the time, so I was maybe just getting that a little bit more mature to appreciate
Yeah.
that. What are your thoughts on that match?
I remember watching that one, it's the opening match of an ECW pay-per-view, so I'm like, yes, there's going to be blood and there's going to be cheers and all that stuff because it's ECW, and not expecting it to be so sound of a match,
Mm.
And it's good because I knew both of them as well, because there was a couple of times, like, I didn't know who Sabu was, you know what I mean? I was whatever age I was, and Sabu wasn't a part of the invasion, so I didn't know who Sabu was, I didn't know who the Sandman was, all these people, so it was nice for the first match in the show to be Lance Storm versus Chris Jericho, two people that I really knew. I remember when Super Crazy came out on that show, I was like, oh cool, it's Tajiri versus Nunzio. And then Super Crazy came out and I was like, who is Super Crazy?
Yeah.
So it was nice to see. So a nice sweet introduction to ECW, and what a lot of people always kind of forget about ECW is that it's such a good wrestling company as well. There were so many great technical wrestling matches. And I mean, Jericho and Lance Storm, they obviously are best pals, and they had their first ever match together. They trained together and all that stuff. So they were going to have great chemistry anyway. But I don't know. I thought because of what it represented and what ECW was supposed to be, it kind of showed that ECW is more than just blood and guts, brother. So I like that. And I remember having a ECW DVD back in the day that was like the most extreme matches ever, and there was no great technical matches on there, because it was all hardcore matches. So it was nice to see those things, and it was nice to know that ECW was more than just hardcore wrestling, And even though that was a cool thing at the time, I did get to the point where too much of something was too much,
Yeah, and ECW was actually much more of a variety show than people give them credit for. Like in the same way, like if what the ICW shows in Scotland were, ICW maybe got its reputation of kind of being
Right.
a spiritual successor to ECW in its style and of the things it did in the hardcore wrestling. But even though they always had that kind of blanket rule of there are no disqualifications for those first few years of ICW, like it was the case that you got just as many good technical matches at those shows as much as you got like a blood and guts sort of match,
Yeah. Matt Hardy just flipped the APA office. Probably not the best idea. Oh my god, what's this here? I've got a Taker promo. Is this maybe for the DVD? Maybe? This is my yard?
I would think so, yeah, which they had clips from on the Brothers of Destruction
So they did.
special, which I was just watching before we started.
That's fun. I did, and it's so funny, like, noticing that is from This Is My Yard, because I'd watched that one so much when I was younger.
Do you know, I never
is.
had it.
Look at that.
I never saw it. God.
It's great. Oh, it's so good. It's one of those ones that was like that first sort of peek behind Undertaker's kind of personality,
Yeah.
which is really cool. Here come the Duds and Stacey Keebler. Yes, here comes Stacey Keebler and the Dudley Boys, and we have Christian, who, by the way, I loved heel Christian in 01.
Yeah, and look at that European title.
I know. We love the European title, I'd like you to check out last week's episode where we talked about the European Championship retrospective, as you can see on Christian right now.
Do you like tag team wrestling? Well, we spoke about it in the Mount Rushmore episode. I remember once being asked to write a Christmas list when I was wee. And or it might have been for, I don't know, I think it was Christmas. And basically my mum said, I want you to write down the wrestling figures that you want. And at that point I didn't have any Dudley Boys, so I wrote down a few names, but I knew you could get like a 2-pack of the Dudley Boys, and there was a triple pack as well you could get with the Dudley Boys and the Rock.
Oh my god, look who it is.
Oh, it's my boy. It's my boy.
The Scotty Too Hotty.
Oh dear, Scotty, Too Hotty, and Albert. No Grandmaster Sexy, folks. This is
No.
post GMS release. Had to think about that there.
Sorry, Dudley Boys figures. Dudley Boys figures.
So I did eventually get a triple pack with the Dudleys and the Rock, but this was before that. And so I wrote down a few names, including the Dudleys. So I wrote down, say, like Chris Benoit, Taz, Scotty
Here we go.
Tahoti, and the Dudleys. And I gave that list to my mammy. And here he is, straight from Buchanan Galleries car park.
Call back.
Do you like Buchanan Galleries car park? Because we spoke about it in episode 2, I think.
Here, did you see? I don't know how close, oh my God, how caught up you are to Dynamite right now, but Taz is doing some great work as a heel manager for Team Taz.
Nah, so I am. I'm about 2-3 episodes behind right now. I think I'm on the Dynamite after Full Gear still, but I do know he's put Cody in the Taz mission.
Put Cody in the Taz mission, and the promo just about being disrespected. You know, the typical Taz promo. You know, he's just doing such a good job, and he's making Ricky Starks and Brian Cage and the FTW title seem like main eventers, and that's exactly what he's always talked about, that he was good at, and is what he's always been known for, is legitimizing things, you know, like legitimizing the commentary and legitimizing being a smaller athlete, as Albert does a wee dance.
Yep.
That knocks down Devon. Here comes your man, Scotty Tahoti. So did you get any of these wrestling figures for Christmas that year?
So I didn't get the Dudley Boys, and the reason why is because I hadn't written the because I hadn't written the Dudleys on my list. I'd written the Duddles. So my mum went, "Sorry, I know that one was at the top of your list, but we could." I asked the man at the shop if he had the Duddles, and he didn't know what I was talking about.
That's good. You speak about Christmas lists there, right? I asked for ECW One Night Stand 2006 one year for my birthday, right?
Oh, that's an 18.
On my Christmas, exactly, right? So it's not as if I could go buy it myself. I had to ask for it, right? So one night my auntie was over, and it was one of those, you know, like a sort of family friend that's not officially your auntie, but you know her for all your life, so you call her your auntie, sort of thing, right? So my fake auntie was over, and she was like, "You need to show me a Christmas list." So
your fake auntie, imagine she's like made of rubber or something. Cardboard cutout.
Oh, it's played by Glenn Jacobs. So she's like, "You need to show me a Christmas list so I have some ideas for what to get you." So I brought through my Christmas list, which I had written out, by the way, on a single bit of paper. This is before I could email lists to people and give them links to exact items that I wanted. This was like a bits of paper I wrote with like a crayon saying these are the things I wanted. And I'd written ECW One Night Stand DVD with Barely Legal, because remember Barely Legal came as like a bonus disc on One Night Stand 06.
2-pack.
I mean, I didn't need to write that, you know what I mean? I could have just wrote One Night Stand 06, but I wrote the whole thing out and stuff. And like, I don't know what age I was. I could have been, I don't know, 11 maybe at this point, and I'm asking for this thing, and she's like, "Oh, One Night Stand? What are you asking for Christmas?"
Do you remember actually when they brought out the line of action figures for that? They couldn't call it the One Night Stand line, so they called it the ECW pay-per-view line.
Really?
Yeah. And similarly, when the Bad Blood pay-per-view was, you know, in 02 and 03, or sorry, 03 and 04, the Bad Blood line came out, but they put an asterisk instead of one of the O's in Bad Blood, so because they couldn't have the word blood.
Really? God.
And I think it was just the legacy of that whole Al Snow severed head scandal. Do you remember that?
No, I feel like I do know about that, but not enough to talk about it. Can you tell me the story?
I think like Al Snow's rookie WWF figure came with him in Head, and Head was always like this tongue-in-cheek, borderline sexual joke, right? And it was, you know, started in ECW, and it was never presented as this is a real person's head. It was just this quirk that he had that he carried around his head and spoke to it. This mannequin's head, if you didn't know Al Snow, folks. Taz does a great suplex, by the way, doesn't he?
The best at this time. So good, man.
And I was going to say this about Taz, actually. I'll come back to Al Snow in a second, but you're mentioning this about him in the AEW right now as he's taking some punches from Devon Dudley. The way that he cuts those promos is so typical of Taz, but I'm just glad, and I don't mean this to sound disrespectful, because God knows he would kill me if I did disrespect him, right? But I'm glad he can still do that. Do you know what I mean? Because he hadn't. Obviously, he's always been a mouthpiece. He's been broadcasting consistently since he retired. but he's not had to do promos like that in a long time. Not since he was in TNA, I don't think. And
even so, he hardly did that. He was the heel commentator for the Aces and Eights, but he hardly did a promo. Like, it's not one he's doing on Dynamite,
yeah, I'm so glad he's part of Dynamite. I really am.
I just think his promos are great, and he's something. Oh my god, I can't believe that just happened. This is on Sky One on Saturday morning.
On Saturday mornings, and so this is how wrestling. So, folks, we should really explain, Stacey Keebler's just
holy god,
it's just been scanted basically,
and
he's
scanted by Albert,
and that was acceptable television in 2001, and it's absolutely uncomfortable to watch now. But WWF presents these things as they were originally broadcast, and here is the Tasmission.
Tasmission, or as Joey Styles would say, the Katahachime.
So the Al Snow thing. So basically, that line of figures came out, and they all had an accessory. So logically, Al Snow has head, and because it was like not the polystyrene head he would carry about in ECW, but the head with the "Help Me" on it that he had in WWF. Right. People like conservative parental groups were worried that it was an action figure of somebody who'd cut a woman's head off.
I see.
And so the figure got pulled. And so I think that figure is quite valuable now because it's so notorious.
Yeah,
it
I think
it got pulled and the accessory got replaced, I think, with like a trash can or something. Ask Scott McGowan, he'll know.
Right, Scott will know. I think you're going to hate this, right? I think I recently, when I say recently, I'm talking last 10 years maybe. 2013, maybe. I purchased the WrestleMania 15 figure of Al Snow, right? Because I went through a kind of phase where I wanted to collect Attitude Era figures and keep them in the box, right? And then recently, my wee cousin has been going into sort of getting wrestling figures and that sort of thing. And he was just asking me for ones to open. And I think I gave him the Al Snow to open. So I could have had that figure and could have been worth something. But I don't know if that's true.
Do you know what? It's fine. Because toys are meant to be played with, and I tell you what, mate, one other big fandom that you and I both share is Star Wars, and my Star Wars action figure collection was also significant to me growing up. And I used to keep the packaging, but open them. There was some that I didn't open, and I've still got some actually that I'm going to give away. Here, if you know a kid that would like Star Wars figures, let me know.
His name is Chris Moffat from the Wrestling Connection podcast.
Right, I don't remember that. And so I always was a believer that, for me as a collector, I'm going to take these things out of the package because then you can really appreciate them. It's the same with pop vinyls to this day. I've got loads of pop vinyls. I'm staring at my Princess Leia one that I've got on my desk, or General Leia, as actually, because it's her in the Force Awakens blue dress at the end. And I'm like, these things are so much better out of their box, because if I wanted to look at a bunch of box figures, I just go to the shop and look at the shelf. It cost me nothing.
Good point. I'm a love-hate relationship with taking things out of the packaging. I think it's a great idea. Madden 2002 advert there, sorry.
Yeah, I'm doing the Lord of the Rings. It was mental. But if you're going to get something signed, then obviously don't open it. Like, keep it in the box. Like, that's different. But for me, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be one of those collectors that collects box figures. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying it's not for me. Do you like the APA theme? Funnily enough, we spoke about it, 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Bradshaw from the APA.
Bradshaw looking ready to wrestle in his absolute comfies. Look at him in his jeans and his cut-off t-shirt. At least put on some gear, mate. Honestly.
Damn.
I was going to say about the Funko Pops, right? About the taking them out the boxes, right? I have about 10 that are out the box. That's my Star Wars ones, and I have a Doc Brown one from Back to the Future, and I have Chris Jericho with the list. I have The Rock with the cool Rock shirt and stuff. They're all out the box. But I'm staring at my my kind of shelf here, and I have the Hardy Boys 2-pack still in the box, and I have the Young Bucks 2-pack still in the box, and they sit next to each other. Because they're two, the same sort of team, but with defining generations, I'm thinking there's a potential chance I could maybe meet the Young Bucks at some point,
Yeah, so. And like those, I've seen a couple of the Hardy Boys Funko Pop 2-packs online signed, really lovely signed versions. Like there was one going for a lot of money because like Matt had signed it in purple and Jeff had signed it in green, and it was like the Hardy's colors. And I just think like I would love that I think because the only replica belt I have nowadays is my Raw title, so I think I would only get that signed by Matt and Jeff because I kind of associate them with that big return when they won those belts.
I also have the Cody Rhodes New Japan one in the box, and I have the Kenny Omega New Japan one in the box because I think they're quite hard to come by. So
those would be cool to get signed.
Yeah, the Omega one's in this kind of fancy packaging. I think because it's a bit rarer. I don't know.
You do know that, like, you've got to believe that because we've got all this great news about vaccines and stuff. Like the fact is, Chris, that I am never taking live wrestling for granted again, and you and I are going to wrestling shows, and
100%.
I just hope that a lot of these shows don't happen on weeknights because that's going to be a big problem for me. But
it'll be alright if it's like once in a blue moon, you know?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I mean, like, generally be fine, like, as long as I'm prepared for the next day. And obviously I don't drink alcohol through the week anyway, so it's not as if I'm going to be boozing on the night before I go to work. So but I just look at all these people sitting in that audience right now as Matt Hardy and Bradshaw are pummeling each other, and it just looks like a bygone world. You know what I mean?
I know, it's crazy.
Never ever take that for granted.
I've been thinking about it recently.
Now talking about it, you know.
I know. I've been thinking about it recently, especially with like the Thunderdome and stuff like that, where I've gotten to the point where it happened with the PC as well. I just got used to it, you know. And then when I watch clips from earlier in 2020, and there's fans, it's like, what? You know, it just doesn't make any sense. The fact that was this year. It's crazy, and that first Raw, when there's a crowd, is going to be unreal. But then how are they going to do it? Are they going to stagger it? Are they going to be like, if you've got vaccine, then if you've been vaccinated, you know, you can join the crowd? Or I don't know how it's going to be, you know? They're going to trust people?
They're definitely going to end up staggering it because Vince will be too impatient. And you think about, like, how there's a much better atmosphere at All Elite right now as opposed to what WWE are putting out, so they'll take notice from that. I mean, the NXT shows are good now, I think, but the difference is that because AEW has that facility, they have much more capacity to have socially distanced fans. But of course, the WWE is moving the Thunderdome into a stadium, so they probably will be able to integrate real fans.
That's a good idea, moving into a stadium with it's like open air, a bit like Dynamite, but it's also going to be December, so it'll be cold.
I know, but yeah, but you know, think about the Rumble, right? And listen, I know Vince McMahon wouldn't agree with what I'm about to say, and I don't want to get too political because politics is so divisive, right? But in January, America's going to have a new president, so the way that the country tackles this system, this problem, this virus is. That is an amazing shot of Vince McMahon sticking on an ice pick. Look at the old phone Ric Flair's holding.
It's good. I had that one.
But you just got to know that America's going to get a little bit better at handling the pandemic. Because I'm reading Obama's book right now, and I didn't realize that there was a pandemic in 2010 or 2009. Before Ebola, it was a different virus, which affected enough places in the world to be classed as a pandemic. And there was a few cases in America, but Obama not only coordinated the pandemic response to stifle it, but then left the textbook on how to tackle a pandemic for the next administration. And so I think America could really benefit from a new president who was right there when Obama was doing all that the first time around. So not to get too political, but you know, I just think that will boost the chances of there being fans at the Rumble, I think
there'll also be some irresponsibility involved as well with the Rumble, I think, but we'll cross the bridge when we come to it. I'm assuming we're about to witness this supermarket brawl here. Because Flair has just walked into the skybox with Vince, and Vince is on the phone, and he looks nervous with Booker T being in the background, unless Austin's maybe on the phone to him. But have you got maybe something you can tell us that you're thankful for this week? But I know you forgot what you were going to say. But if you can remember it, you can tell us it right now.
I haven't remembered it, but I have come up with a new one. But the long lost forgotten thankfulness, which I was texting Chris about on Thursday, I have forgotten. Totally forgotten what it is, and I can't figure it out. So I'm going to do the jingle, and let's cue jingle. What I'm thankful for in wrestling this week. Oh yeah. So I think those live jingles should become a once in a blue moon thing, by the way.
Yes, no, that's good, Ollie.
So I did have something in mind. It's escaped my mind, but there is something that has happened in wrestling in the week that I'm recording this, and I am very, very thankful for it. So, Chris, this week I am thankful for The Undertaker on Cameo.
Let's talk about it. I forgot to mention it. Let's talk about it.
So WWE and Cameo have been interesting this year because it came to Vince McMahon's radar, and if you're a wrestling fan, you'll be aware that WWE has really clamped down on their stars using Cameo. They're only allowed to use it under certain circumstances. WWE takes a cut of those conditions now, even if this talent uses their real name. Infamously, it's caused their policy in Cameo on Twitch has caused, Zelina Vega's departure. And I just think that Zelina Vega is just going to go from strength to strength.
Their loss.
It's 100% their loss. And I know it was a principled thing, and letting her go was a symbolic thing for them to make a statement, no doubt. But she, I've just going back to her early NXT days. I think she's always been so impressive, and because she didn't wrestle that much, when she did wrestle, you really took notice. And I just think the amount, and Paige is in the same situation. Paige is making more money right now doing Twitch than she did as a WWE wrestler. So it's a bit of an easy decision for Paige because she's a creative person. And so if she becomes Saraya Knight, do you think her fans are going to care that she doesn't call herself Paige? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And the same with Zelina Vega. Like, she makes a lot of money on is it Twitch and OnlyFans that she uses?
I think she did a little bit on OnlyFans, and then I think something happened where she had to stop. But that was part of the reason why she got let go. I mean, listen. You do whatever you want to do. You know, I don't understand why your boss should be able to say, "Don't go on this website." You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So, I mean, it would be one thing if, like, Kevin Owens was on Cameo talking about how much he hates WWE.
Exactly.
But I think they were worried about that, the inability to control it. So they've struck up this partnership, and part of the things that came out of that was that in joint celebration of the 30 days of The Undertaker and celebrating 30 years of The Undertaker, the Cameo partnership with WWE announced that Taker would do 30 cameos only, priced at $1,000 each. So you have to be a well-off wrestling fanatic to book those cameos. Last night, 2 nights ago, I spent 18 minutes of my life, which I will never get back, watching all of them cut together.
Me too, on YouTube.
Yeah, and
yeah, me too.
So here are some highlights. The Undertaker opening one up with Granny. Undertaker telling someone that, "Oh, you look fine."
I heard you're a great baseball player.
Undertaker promoting somebody's horror novel. Undertaker, who has been paid $1,000 by a fan to say thank you to the McMahons.
That's excellent. That's absolutely excellent. That is exactly what wrestling is all about right there.
He ended most of them with rest in peace. But of course, you know what the crown jewel is, Chris. And I hope, Chris, that this crown jewel will be the introduction or the outroduction to this episode of the podcast.
We'll do the outroduction because we put it at the start. Half the folk won't know what it is.
So the thing is, folks, that the irony of this is that this whole partnership with Cameo and losing Zelina Vega and, telling wrestlers that they're not allowed to do it was WWE trying to control it. But then how can you control a situation where somebody's paid $1,000 to specifically have The Undertaker say something specific? Because, folks, Chris and I have used Cameo and a bunch of other agencies like Cameo multiple times to get wrestlers to do introductions for us. So
we've not paid £1,000 to get Gangrel to say clanging and banging or flanging and banging, whatever it is.
No, we haven't. Now, they charge varying prices, and we've had Jonathan Coachman, Mick Foley, Santino Marella, Gangrel, Tori Wilson, Josh Matthews, and Chavo Guerrero as well. So, you pay for these things, or you make a charitable donation depending on what the talent wants, and you get a wee box to specifically request what you want them to say, and somebody has paid $1,000 US. And I think the most expensive one that we had was Mick Foley, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was worth it. Mick Foley was awesome.
He was the best, yeah.
You pay $1,000. So unless you're asking somebody to be like really racist or something, I don't really see how you can say no. So then Undertaker is then paid $1,000, and the WWE are paid $1,000 for Undertaker to go, all elite. Scooby-Doo. And Chris, I was in fits that
Oh,
whole night.
God.
Similar to when I first watched this segment in SmackDown of the Can we just take a second to appreciate Booker T before we go back to this?
Yes, let's go back to it in a minute. But we're talking. The whole reason why I wanted to do this episode of SmackDown was obviously because it was the anniversary. We wanted to test how it's been, how it was going to go. But my God, this is one of my favorite moments in SmackDown history.
Yeah.
And I watched this so many times when I was younger. Like my dad helped me find access to this clip so many times, whether it be on LimeWire or whatever, the infancy of YouTube. God, it's so funny. Even without the sound, it's hilarious. He puts him in the fridge and all this. Booker T is getting absolutely mauled through Asda. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Look at him just covered in all the flour.
And the fact that he's like, if you've got the sound on, he's giving it like, like that, he's properly sobbing. Oh God, I wonder how many takes they did this in. God, they must have just done it in the one take.
It was the one, surely.
Yeah, because he's got so much crap all over him, and he's so covered in flour. And the fact that they're both wearing black, it makes it funnier because the flour is like contrasting against their dark clothing.
I always thought it was funny how Austin put on his knee braces for this.
Oh God! And of course, they had to like pay the supermarket in advance for all the damage.
Just kick here. Oh,
that's nasty. These little things in wrestling, you don't realize how bad they hurt. Like falling like that on concrete where they're wrestling. Now, this is not a gimmick supermarket. This is a real supermarket. Could you go there today?
I think so.
Look at that look in Vince's face.
I just love the Ric Flair and Vince McMahon having like favorites in this fight. As if it was a match.
Mm-hmm.
All Elite Supermarket. So obviously with the Undertaker cameo thing, right? So the way that Chavo called his Then Wrestling Collection or not collection? Yeah. I just said it wrong. Then Wrestling Connection and all that stuff. Obviously it's just that's our name. So at All Elite Scooby-Doo has asked Taker just to say my name and say hello or whatever it was. And maybe that's the one about the baseball. So Taker, just the way he's saying granny, and it got me every time he kept saying hello Sebastian. I just thought that was hilarious. So, and obviously his name is All Elite Scooby-Doo, and Taker's seen that and been like, all right, well, that's your name, I'm going to need to say it. And it's just the way it kind of escalates. Like so many people, it's like a tease. Like, is he going to say AEW? It just goes, Scooby-Doo.
It's the way he also, with a slight tone of frustration, goes, that's how I'm going to address you.
And then he starts laughing, he starts corpsing, and you can hear it in like his voice. He's kind of getting the giggles, and then he just like incorporates into the thing. He just starts going, ha 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 ha.
And so that night when that first went viral, Kate was looking at me going, "What is wrong with you?" Because like I was having a fit.
I think I sent it to you on Twitter.
Yeah, I think one of us sent it to you. One of us.
Right, here we go. Here it is.
All Elite Scooby-Doo. That's how I'm going to address you. Well, All Elite Scooby-Doo. Congratulations on getting married. You did the right thing.
Congratulations on getting married. Oh, genius, man. It's so funny. But listen, the easiest 30 grand anyone has ever made.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. We should start doing it. We could. Anybody out there who's listening want us to do a cameo for your podcast or your life, we'll say Scooby-Doo. We'll go All Elite, Shaggy, or whatever you want. And we'll only charge 900 quid.
I love that MJF still charges like 500 quid for a cameo.
And he just absolutely berates you if you do it.
Absolutely.
That's what you want, though.
I don't think anyone's actually used him, but the principle of it's hilarious.
I love this Undertaker Rob Van Dam hardcore match of Vengeance 01.
Oh, what a match. Those guys always had good matches. Remember that Raw 02 match where Van Dam nearly won the title?
Yeah. Is that the one that came off the Titantron?
I don't know, but I just remember it had a kind of a screwy finish. Van Dam pinned Taker, but Taker's foot was on the rope.
Right, that's right. Yeah, and the place goes mental.
And
that's right. I love this Jericho intro, by the way. I love this sort of the silhouette of him walking down the mad corridor.
I used to
Brilliant.
love how the camera would just zoom into the Titantron rather than cut to the feet of the Titantron. I used to
Yeah, it's
just
genius.
appreciate that kind of aesthetic.
It's just the wee things, isn't it, that you I don't know, it's just the wee things you appreciate and you go, that's actually really well thought out, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
The Undertaker on Cameo, I'm thankful for him, and I'm thankful that it had such hilarious results, and what should have just been and a lot of them were quite straightforward. It was just him in character saying, thank you for what you do, and anyone who doesn't like it can rest in peace. But the fact that we now have All Elite Scooby-Doo, when WWE did this to kind of control it a bit more, is just hilarious. So yeah, I was trying to say, like, Kate was really worried for me at one point because like we were getting ready for bed, because I go to bed quite early during the week. And I was in the bathroom, like brushing teeth and stuff, and I started playing it, and I had this laughing fit. And I kind of have a bit of a Jimmy Carr laugh sometimes. And
I've never noticed.
but when I get really excitable, I proper hack. I don't know if I can impersonate my own laugh, but I kind of go like like kind of like Ricky Gervais does, and so I was having a proper laughing fit, like side splitting tears in the bathroom. And then I kept laughing in the bedroom when I went to get into bed. And then Kate eventually was like, what are you finding so funny? And then I showed her it, and she's like, what is that even supposed to be? So you don't understand. It's the character. And he just say things like that. And it's the company. It's the other company. And he says Scooby-Doo, and it's so bizarre.
Hello, Sebastian. Here he is, I know. I wonder if he's thinking on his bike one day I'm going to be talking about All Elite Scooby-Doo on Cameo. Coolest entrance ever, by the way.
Yep.
American Badass Taker on the bike to Rollin', even with the short hair, and the hardcore title on the front of the bike. And I also like Jericho's wee red tips in his hair. I always thought that was a nice effect when like he would bleed or whatever, or when he was like really sweaty at the end of Vengeance 01. I enjoy a sweaty Jericho. I enjoy Y2J, Les Champions, being a little bit sweaty and having a good time. Aye. Here comes Van Damme, pre-One of a Kind by Breaking Point. This is the way they tried to replicate Walk, his ECW theme. The da 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 da. They tried to replicate it on WWE with down, 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 down. However, look how over a previous Alliance member is already.
Good, and he was just. I mean, this is post Alliance, of course, but like he is.
To be fair, he was very popular when he was in the Alliance as well.
Yeah, he was like. It was hard not to have him as a babyface. The fans loved him then. They just absolutely gravitated towards him really quickly. Whatever happened to this guy though?
I don't know. Probably owning a football league. I always liked how Rock and Austin both always worked SmackDown as well.
Yeah,
like we knew that SmackDown was the lesser of the two shows, but they always seemed to be there.
That was just so of its time, because for most of the brand split, even going up to like those weird times in 2013 before they unified the two titles, right?
That's right.
It was still like SmackDown only had certain wrestlers, but you got both of them on Raw. So SmackDown was definitely the lesser of the two, but you wouldn't get Cena and Punk on those shows. Definitely not. It was so unusual.
It was like Sheamus' show, wasn't it? Like Sheamus and maybe Randy Orton.
Yeah.
We're also about to witness The Rock and Rob Van Dam in the same team. That's rare.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to suggest saying to you we do a random wrestler recollection, but we've got plenty of them right here. Bradshaw in his street clothes, and Crash Holly and Lance Storm, and Booker T and Asda. But yeah, anything else on Undertaker's cameo? If he's available again, we should book him.
No. I don't know why I did that.
And Glenn on Then Wrestling Connection. You will have a good day. And you will rest. He must have got sick of saying that, by the way. I think notice how like the last like 4 he didn't say it. He was obviously knackered to saying it.
I know, because he just did it all in the one sitting. Because he did that at Survivor Series, didn't he? Like during the day.
Yeah, he must have done. Yeah. I must say, the Survivor Series thing, it was cool seeing him and stuff, but I was a bit disappointed. Disappointed is the wrong word.
I was disappointed with the whole show.
I was expecting to see Mark Calloway kind of come out, you know, like with American Badass and stuff like that, and for the first time ever, I was really looking forward to seeing what that would look like in the ring. But it was just Taker, and he did a Taker promo, and that was fine. But I just didn't. I mean, it was a half an hour of entrances, and then Taker just came out, and they all disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, I know they were limited. Sorry.
Sorry. I'll keep
on my
talking.
drink.
He's a negative COVID case, by the way. I know
true.
Taker comes out and
paperwork to prove it.
and then of course like Savio Vega came out in the Godwins and all this, and I was like, God, what are they going to do? And Kane, poor Kane, coming out in his gear. But as soon as all the legends were coming out and they were saving Kane at the end, I was like, please have Kane the only one in gear. And then they showed the video package, which was amazing. I must say, the video package was unbelievable. That Metallica song that they used for WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And then it finished, and then they were all gone. And I just thought it was really strange.
And I know they probably didn't want to have all those people in the ring together, but at the same time, you can have all those guys together, but you can't add Taker in the mix. You know, why not have Taker come out and have them all at the other outside the ring, have them all applaud Taker, then have them bugger off,
yes,
and then have Taker cut his promo. You know, I did like the Paul Bearer thing. Thought that was cool.
That was cool, yeah. I mean, obviously, there's nothing we can do. The fact there's no fans there, but Taker. He's talked about this in the last ride, how he didn't really look around that much. He would just kind of like do his own thing. But he was almost taking a moment at Survivor Series to kind of take it all in and enjoy it. And he was looking around as if there was fans there. You know what I mean? Like, it's not as if like the Thunderdome screens were on. It was still like the Taker lights. And he was looking around as if like, oh, I'm going to miss you all. And there was no one there. I just thought it was a really strange segment.
Yeah. But you know what, mate? As much as this hopefully is his final farewell, because they can't keep doing this, you know, they can't keep giving him these symbolic send-offs. He's still going to show up for a Hall of Fame one day. I mean, true. I think the next Hall of Fame for WrestleMania 21? No, WrestleMania 2021, and that will be WrestleMania 37. God, it's WrestleMania 37, really? Jeez.
It's crazy, isn't it?
I can't believe that in 3 years it'll be WrestleMania 40.
And I can't believe in 2 years Iron Sheik will be at the ring.
Oh, I love the Iron Sheik on Twitter. So where am I going with this?
The next Hall of Fame with Taker coming out of Hall of Fame.
Well, I think the next Hall of Fame they need to just do the one they had planned with like the NWO and Batista and Bulldog.
JBL.
Yeah. So that will need to happen, and then the following year they can, because they're saying that maybe this WrestleMania coming will be at Raymond James, and they may just delay everything by a year.
And you'd be gutted if you were LA and you've bid all that money for the WrestleMania that was supposed to happen, you know?
I know, but they're really hit badly right now with it.
That's true, aren't they?
My friends in California, they're back in lockdown, you know, so it's difficult. It's really difficult to see. The only thing that gives us hope is this vaccine. If you start being able to vaccinate people, then you can safely have an arena full of people. Like the old days. Like that's the only thing. And the thing is that a lot of people were so sad and so hopeless because, you know, they still don't have a vaccine for SARS. Like there was no promise of there ever being a vaccine, let alone ones which had 70 to 90% effectiveness. You know, that 50% effectiveness would have been good news. So the fact that we have this was the only thing that would make life go back to normal. And that means realistically that what we're seeing now, as Rob Van Dam hits a Rolling Thunder with all these people around, you know, and the crowd going crazy for it, like that can happen again.
That bump by Jericho there, that feed was crazy. And look at Tim White. Didn't even mention Tim White. Legend.
The legend that is Tim White.
My thankful segment this week. Let's do it again. What I'm thankful for in wrestling this week.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I didn't really think of anything too much. I was watching SmackDown from this past week and I was just appreciating how good Jey Uso is.
Yeah.
And I can't believe, you know, like we've underestimated him, but of course he's in a tag team. And we have always known that Usos were great, right? But like now, this is different level great because now he's singles great, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just made me appreciate some, you know, of the best runs by best singles runs by wrestlers that are predominantly known as tag team wrestlers. So I'm thinking Jey Uso, obviously the one is currently, you know. But then I think of people like Bully Ray, you know? You think of Bubba Ray Dudley and you go, okay, well, it's the Dudley Boys. But then Bully Ray in TNA was the most interesting and like the must-see TV of Impact every week on Impact when it was like 2012 or whatever.
I would go as far to say the peak of his career.
Yeah,
And I know that's
agree.
maybe a controversial statement, but and I love everything that man has done. Like, there's not a point in his career that I've not enjoyed. I've always loved Bully Ray / Bubba Ray Dudley. But I think his absolute peak as a performer, in terms of his creative output, his contribution to the business, and his significance, I think, even though he's a WWE Hall of Famer, it's that run and Impact. From being the kind of feel-good babyface to being the leader of the Aces and Eights to the world champion, deservingly so, and a credible world champion at that.
Yeah. I think he's in a TNA Hall of Fame. I think he is. I think him and Devon went in a couple of years ago. I'm not to discredit Reverend Devon, singles run by tag team wrestling. I know it was silly, but good on him for giving it a go.
Reverend Devon. Yeah, and that's the thing. He really embraced it. He really took that and ran with it. And I don't think they wanted to get the Dudleys back together initially.
No.
So I think, that maybe that wasn't the right gimmick, but I'm still glad it existed. I'm still glad we had Reverend Devon because it was fun and it was funny.
Another one I noted down was JBL. I wouldn't say if you think of Bradshaw, you don't immediately think of the APA, but he was always, he would struggle to kind of find his feet, and he would always get like new partners, the new Blackjacks or whatever, and then he was with Farouk, and then he was with whoever it was before that and stuff. He was with like Dutch Mantel and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then with Hardcore Bradshaw, and he was teaming with like Trish and that sort of thing. But he didn't really take off until JBL, so I guess you could probably say that. He's a great run as a predominant tag team wrestler at a point. I also noted down Bobby Roode and James Storm individually. You look at Bobby Roode and James Storm, you go, okay, Beer Money, one of the best tag teams ever. And also incredible as single stars. I have no idea. What was Vince doing in 2017? Surely he was in the office and NXT just happened to be on the network and he saw how good of a top guy Bobby Roode was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I would also say the same thing about James Storm. And I know James Storm didn't particularly want to stick around in his kind of brief time in NXT, right? But I'm glad that he's in Impact right now, doing what he's doing. But I just think both men have much more potential in WWE than we ever saw. And I think it's a shame. I'd like to think that one day we could see Beer Money or a version thereof in WWE, but time is running out,
Yeah, we're going to see that moment in the Royal Rumble one year, innit? Like Bobby Roode's going to be in the ring, and then James Storm's going to have just debuted on Raw a couple weeks earlier, and they're going to have a stare down, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be one of those moments where it's if you know sort of thing. And WWE did that quite well, I think.
I love those kind of moments. Like that really cheeky moment. That's a great Thankful thing, actually. That really cheeky moment when
look at The Rock's punches here. Oh my God, he's so good.
I know. GR wouldn't approve though because he doesn't like thigh slappers.
But The Rock didn't amount to anything.
I know. I hate that he's selective of when he doesn't like that, and that's quite a recent thing. The Rock was doing it for years.
Yeah.
But yeah, what were we talking about before that?
Tag team wrestlers and all moments that WWE do that it's like tongue in cheek and like if you know, you know.
The moment where AJ and the club were backstage and then Finn just walked by,
Yes.
When was that?
Or that was like Money in the Bank 2017 or something. But the one where it was like the ladder match and AJ and Shinsuke were like walking in and like they just had that New Japan match like a couple of years earlier or whatever, and people were saying that's the match we want to see. And like they moved the ladder out of the way and had this stare down. They had never even done anything in WWE TV. But just because they had this history, they kind of alluded to it. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Other singles runs by tag team wrestlers, Christopher Daniels. Predominantly a tag team wrestler, whether it be in Triple X back in TNA or in SCU through the Indies and now AEW. But anytime Christopher Daniels has been a single star or has done some form of singles run, singles work, he has been amazing and truly a legend of the sport and doesn't get enough credit.
Did he ever get anything? Because I know he did like dark matches in WWE, but did Christopher Daniels ever get any kind of opportunity properly there?
I don't think so. He was meant to be the higher power. But then I got scrapped last minute and it ended up being Vince, but I don't know. That would have been interesting if it was Christopher Daniels. But then I thought of Christian. And I think when I think of Christian, do you think of a tag team wrestler now that he's done so much? But I definitely would have said this during his TNA run. How great of a singles run he's having right now being from Edge and Christian. Or even just that first heel run we saw earlier in late 01. There's Van Damme getting the 3 count. Didn't expect that at all.
On the champion, no less.
That's a big deal right there.
He has pinned the world champion in that main event of SmackDown.
The one Billy Gunn, another example.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite versions of Billy Gunn. I think the one Billy Gunn.
That was the one Billy Gunn theme song. Look at Take Us Fair's big evil right there.
I know. And this episode of SmackDown is coming to an end, Chris, and we've not talked about it that much as it was on. We have here and there.
That's okay though. I quite like that because it was like, it means you don't have to watch it along with us and stuff. And it went by really quickly. I can't believe we've been here an hour and a half. Really good episode of SmackDown, by the way, and that main event was really good.
Yeah, definitely. And these TV episodes, particularly SmackDown, are good for a watch along if you want a kind of a conservative sort of length, you know.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gents. That was SmackDown from December 13th, 01. The cat is out of the bag, really, and we kind of want to do these things, especially for things like Rebellion 2001, which we've talked about ad nauseum here, because it's one of our favourite shows ever as a collective. One, because I had it on VHS when I was young and I watched it all the time, but also because Glenn was in attendance back in 2001. So we were going to do that today.
I don't think I've never mentioned it, have I?
You should maybe talk about it. And we were going to do that today, but we thought, like 2021, when we get to November, that is the 20-year anniversary. And obviously, there's going to be there's a 20-year anniversary for something that happened today, you know? Mm-hmm. But not anything as significant as Rebellion 01, you know? As a favourite show that we talk about all the time, and you were there. So we need to wait for the 20th anniversary. So we'll do that in 2021. And going forward, we'll do a couple more of these watch-alongs and see how they go. I really enjoyed this one. And I wanted to say to you, in January, we should totally do the 20-year anniversary of the Royal Rumble match from 2001 and talk about that.
Absolutely. I would love that because it's such a great show. So, the best Rumble of all time in my books. And fight me, you know, because it is the best Rumble ever.
Yeah, we could just do the Rumble match. It's because the pay-per-view is obviously about 3 hours, but it's up to you.
Yeah, let's do the match because that's a good hour. That's a good. I mean, the pay-per-view is great. I mean, it's got a great tag match to open it up.
Tag match is great.
Like a rare heel versus heel main event with Triple H and Angle. But I think there's so much happening in that Rumble match. I think that's how the watch along should happen. We just get everybody to queue up that match and we'll put it there. And I actually think, as much as there's been lots of Royal Rumble matches since then that I've loved, the only one that's come close to kind of matching it, maybe does match it in my books, was the 2020 Rumble. I think the 2020 Rumble was an extraordinarily good one.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I liked the first Women's Royal Rumble in 2018, but I think
that was a lot of fun. Yeah,
it was a lot of fun, but there was almost too much nostalgia. Whereas I think the 2019 one was probably a better one in terms of just like giving us a Royal Rumble match that we love, you know. But I think the women have yet to be given like the absolute excellent Royal Rumble match, I guess. I don't know. The 2018 men's Rumble was good, you know.
So good. Really, really good. And even the 08 Royal Rumble was a really good one for me too at the Madison Square Garden.
Oh, here, dude, it's so funny, right? You know how you were talking about if you know, you know? There's a great moment in the 08 Rumble where Triple H and Mick Foley have a super blink and you miss it confrontation. I was thinking about it today, actually, in the same building at the same pay-per-view where 8 years prior they'd had a great street fight.
Yeah, so good these wee moments, isn't it? That could be maybe next week's Thankful. In fact, we can't because next week is the Christmas special.
Oh my God.
What we're going to do, so we're going to open our presents, right? We're going to talk about wrestling around Christmas time.
Yeah.
And you want to do segments?
We'll do segments and we'll just be festive when we can. I don't know. I was thinking of maybe getting some mulled wine or something. And
very nice, yes.
And I'm going to just wear my Christmas jumper and I'm going to, I'm just going to be merry. Like, that's it. You know, it's going to be festive. We'll talk about wrestling at Christmas time and enjoy yourselves, I guess. I guess that's the best thing that you can do. Do you have a Christmas jumper that you're going to wear?
Yes, of course. I should probably get a new one. I've had the same one for about 6 years now, but
what one have you got?
Get a new one. It's just a penguin, and it's got like the penguin's hat is like embossed, so it's like a wee bauble.
Ah, I see.
It's quite cute, yeah.
I like a good jumper. Yeah, we started wearing them at work, so I'm game for that. I've got Star Wars.
You're well into it already.
Oh, here, have you seen the new Mandalorian?
Here, it was the best episode yet.
Loved it. So good. So good.
Do you know much about the Clone Wars, or are you still watching through it?
I mean, my father served in the Clone Wars. Um, years
So
ago,
there you go.
actually, you served my father in the Clone Wars, and now
There was the softball.
Nah, I've been watching Clone Wars a little bit here and there in Disney Plus, but I'm not in a very committed way. But I love that Ahsoka character, like just amazing. Amazing.
Cool. Well, ladies and gents, thank you for if you watched along with us. We really appreciate it. I really enjoyed the episode of SmackDown actually.
Yeah.
And hopefully you enjoyed listening to us. If you didn't watch it as a watch along, then hopefully you will do next time because I think it went quite well.
Yeah.
And we hope that you join us for the very festive Christmas special next week on the Wrestling Connection. And I can't stress to you how excited I am because we are going to exchange gifts with each other for the first time in our friendship. And we are making sort of small wee Christmas packages for each other based on our wrestling tastes. So tune in next week and see what we have got in each other. And well, not see, but you can hear it. We'll film it too.
Yeah.
And yeah, until next time, folks, thank you very much for listening. From Glenn and myself, we hope everyone's doing well and enjoying December. We'll see you next week for the Christmas special. But please remember to stay safe out there, everybody.
Take care, folks. All the best.
All elite Scooby-Doo. That's how I'm going to address you. Well, all elite Scooby-Doo. Congratulations on getting married. You did the right thing. In March of next year, your days as a single man will soon rest in peace.